Okay, so now we're getting into the lifestyle section of this program. And the first thing I really want you to understand the importance of is sunlight. So sunlight is essential to every single organism on this earth, and we as humans are no different. We really need a lot of sunlight, and if you think about it, humans have evolved around the equator, so we really have gotten our sunlight needs from that time as well. So we need a lot of sunlight, and if you're like me and you live in a northern country, you don't really get any sunlight at all in the winter months. So this is really something I want you to take serious, and we're going to talk about some of the aspects of how you can really increase your light absorption. Because many people today, we talk about being malnourished and we are missing nutrients and we are missing all these vital things in terms of diet, but you can actually also be mal-illuminated, and pretty much everyone today is mal-illuminated, and this basically means we are missing in vital nutrients from the sun. So when we talk about the sun, many people, they want to talk about vitamin D, and vitamin D is very, very important, and we get that from sunlight, obviously. But sunlight actually has many more frequencies and vibrations that we also need as human beings, and it's just not something we can just reduce down to just vitamin D. So I'm going to show you some methods here that you can use to really increase your light absorption. So the first thing I really want you to think about is just getting as much sunlight on your body as possible. If you can, tan naked. Literally go outside naked and get sunlight on every part of your body. Obviously, if you're in a neighborhood or something, it's not really ideal to tan naked, and it's not really a possibility. So you can just get as much exposure on your skin as possible, and that'll be good enough. Actually, we have quite a few benefits when we tan naked, especially for guys. When we get light exposure on our genitals, on our testicles basically, we actually produce more testosterone and this stuff. Then we really have to get into when you want to get this sunlight, because we do have different periods of the year and different times of the day even that we want to get out and get this sunlight. So as I've written here, you really want to get out at peak UV hours, and that means from mid-April to sometime around mid-September in most places. And this is going to be when the sun will be the brightest, it will be the most powerful on your skin and all of this. And if you start tanning in mid-April, you're really going to adjust your body to get used to that increased UV amount in the summer, so you won't get as red and you won't get sunburned basically. So you really want to ease and adjust your body into this, so you don't get burned and you don't get sun fatigue basically, and you can basically get as much sunlight as possible. That's really what we want to work into. I also want to mention that it can actually take years to fix deficiencies such as vitamin D. So you have to do this for years to really adjust your mal-illumination. So we have to do this every year, and every year it gets better and better, and our body really adjusts, and we start getting this very natural and good looking tan as well. So really prioritize this every year. Get out every day from mid-spring to mid-September, and you're basically setting up your body to have the best health possible. Also, we have to talk about sunscreen. So sunscreen actually blocks 99% of the beneficial frequencies, which are the things we really want from the sun. So you don't want to use this stuff at all. I know many people today, they think the sun gives them cancer and all of this, but actually it's the exact opposite. We have actually never seen a study that shows that sunscreen is effective at fighting against skin cancer, and all of that is actually a big misunderstanding. When we get skin cancer and all these different conditions, it's always due to something else in our lifestyle or diet or environment. It's not because of the sun. I promise the sun is there to heal you, is there to help you and give you vibrant health, and it's not something you have to be afraid of. If you think about it, this sunscreen is actually almost a product of the devil, you could say. It really takes the natural light that we get on our bodies, and when we have sunscreen on, it just instantly reflects that out again into outer space, and we don't absorb any of the things we need to absorb. So I highly recommend you just stay as far away from sunscreen as possible. Also, sunscreen is filled with all these different chemicals which absorb into your skin and into your bloodstream. So actually, in a worst case scenario, sunscreen is the thing that gives you cancer. It's not the sun, it's the sunscreen. You have to realize that your body makes its own sunscreen. It's called a tan. So that's why we want to ease into this. We want to start from mid-April when the UV density is not as high, so we can really ease our body into this and give it a nice tan, so it doesn't have to burn every time we go out during the summer basically. Also, you just really have to use common sense in all of this. If you're starting to burn and your skin is getting red and it's starting to hurt, it's a sign that you've been in the sun for too long, and you just get out, and then you can go out the next day and get some more tan and really work up to this. So if you are very pale, or you are maybe an Irish person or something, and you're not really adjusted to getting out into the sun, you just need to ease into this. Go outside, 10 to 20 minutes each day until your body is on the brink of burning, and then you just go into the shadow and you rest for the rest of the day, and then you go out the next day and you do the same thing again, and slowly you will get a tan developed and you will be more susceptible to sunlight, and you can get all these beneficial frequencies. And yeah, as I mentioned, this malillumination can really take years to adjust itself. So you really want to be consistent with this, and you want to do it every year basically, and every day in these high UV months. Also, the last point here is I have, don't wear sunglasses. So that's pretty much the same concept as the sunscreen. We evolved around the sun. We need to get sunlight on our skin, but we actually also need it into our eyes. Wearing sunglasses is actually very, very unnatural for our eyes. And we don't actually make enough hormones when we wear sunglasses, because our body uses signals from the sun and it transforms it basically through the eyes, and we make certain hormones that makes us sleep better, and it basically just controls our melatonin and all of this very important stuff. So actually your skin will burn much easier if you wear sunglasses, and that has to do with your body producing something called melanin, which is what makes your skin dark and brown and all of this, and makes it not burn as easily. And when you wear sunglasses, your body is going to produce less of that. So you're going to burn more easily, and you're not going to produce as much melanin. And that's basically not what you want if you really want to optimize your sun health. So this was a bit about sunlight. It's so important. Nobody gets enough sunlight today. We are inside all day. We wear clothes and all this. So we really just want to maximize this. In my opinion, it's one of the key principles of having good health today. So whenever the sun is out in these peak months, just go out there, get as much sunlight on your body as possible. Don't use sunscreen, don't use sunglasses. Go into the shade if you are starting to burn. And if you do all these things, you'll actually experience a significant boost in your health and vitality, and you'll look better and you'll feel better. So I highly recommend you take this seriously. If you're in a dark place like me, you don't really have sunlight in all these dark winter months, and that can really contribute to this malillumination. And even when the sun is out in these winter months, the UV density is not high enough for your body to produce what it needs to produce basically. So we have to go to other methods that we can actually use to increase our sun absorption basically, and really also prepare our body for these peak UV months and really get the most out of them. So that's what we're going to look into now. So here we have some things that you can use in these very dark winter months. So the first we can use are these light therapy tanning beds. And these things I have here are the ones I use. They are from a certain company here in Denmark called Beauty Tan. I'm not sure if they have this in other parts of the world, but you very likely have something similar to this. So these are not just regular tanning beds. When you see regular tanning beds, they usually just have this UVA aspect. UVA is the part of sun that really colors your skin and gives you this tan. But we really also want all the other aspects of sunlight, or at least we want as many as we can get. So when you go into these light therapy tanning beds, you're not only getting UVA to color your skin, but you're also getting UVB, which produces vitamin D, and it produces all these other things in our body that we need. And you'll also get red light and some other frequencies that we don't get from these other normal tanning beds. So this is basically a much better way to tan, and it's going to give you a health boost in the winter, and you can actually really feel this, because a lot of people, they get this winter depression, and it's actually just them missing light and all of this, and you can very effectively use these things to really give your body the light it needs to not have depression and all these other disorders that we can get when we are lacking in light basically. And it's really the same as with many other things in this program. Quality really is key. So you want these quality light therapy tanning beds. You don't just want the regular tanning beds which only have these UVA lights and is really not going to provide you with enough light therapy to get through these winter months. Other things we can use are these UV heat lamps, which produce both UVA and UVB. And the one I have here is actually used for pets like lizards and turtles and whatnot. But you can use these for yourself as well, and you can just turn it towards your face and whatnot, and you're going to produce a bit of vitamin D, and you're going to get these very important frequencies that we can't get in these winter months. You can also use saunas. Both infrared saunas and regular saunas both provide you with a lot of invisible light and red light and all of this, which is also very, very beneficial for everything in our body. So it's not only visible light we also need these invisible frequencies that we just can't see. And this is what saunas can give you. So I highly recommend you use a sauna as well, and especially in these winter months. It's another thing that really can give you a boost when you use it, and you will feel happier and you'll feel more relaxed and all of this. So try this out as well. It's very beneficial when you live in these dark and cold places, and basically when you can't get enough sunlight in the winter, which most of us can't. So that was a lot about sunlight, but now we're going to get into some other aspects that you can use in your lifestyle to really increase your health, Here we have exercise, yoga, and breathwork, and these are just some examples of what you can use to really support your health and to really fight against stress and really just achieve optimal health. So I've written out yoga here, and that's just because that's what I really enjoy doing. I really follow this channel a lot, as I have here on the right side of the screen. It's called Breath and Flow. So you can look into that if you want to get into yoga. It's a very good channel. Basically, yoga is good for your entire body. It's also a breath exercise while you do it, so you really become mindful and you really become less stressed. And it's just something I highly recommend you try out. But really what you just have to figure out is what type of exercise that suits you. So what can you make consistent? If you are going to do yoga, but you're only going to do it for 1 week and then you're going to stop for a month, then it doesn't really matter. You want something you can make consistent. So maybe you like to go to the gym and you do that for a couple of times a week, and that's really something that you can make consistent and keep doing. You're only going to get results with things you can make consistent. We don't really have a quick fix when it comes to this. You can't just do yoga for a month and then you're set. You have to keep doing these things. So you want something you enjoy and you want something you can make consistent. And it doesn't have to be these intense things. You can also just go for walks, you can go for hikes and all this stuff. And that's another good way to get your exercise in. You basically have so many options today. So find something that suits you and that you can do on a daily or weekly basis and that you can just make consistent, and you're going to get great results and you're really going to get less stressed and you're really just going to support your health and your lifestyle in a significant way. So another thing we have here is breathwork. Specifically, this is very good if you have an anxiety and you have these running thoughts all the time. Doing something like this box breathing as we have here is actually very, very efficient. And I hear all the time that people have great results when they use this, and it's something people use every day, maybe just for 2 or 5 minutes. So as you can see in this picture here, it's very simple. You breathe in for 4 seconds, then you hold that for 4 seconds, you breathe it out for 4 seconds, and then you hold again for 4 seconds. Then you just keep going in this loop. This is something they use in Navy SEALs, and it's something that's used by a lot of high performance athletes and whatnot. So it's really something that works and something I advise you try out and see if it's something you find working for you as well. So that was it for this slide. The point is really to find something that suits you and something you can make consistent, and then you're basically going to get the best results. So we just talked about exercise and how important that stuff is, but we really also have to realize the importance of rest and how that really helps to rebuild everything in our body. So we have these yang aspects, which could be things like exercise, like running or weightlifting or yoga. It could also be things like work or being creative or writing stories or whatever you're doing that really requires this intense focus and really kind of produces some form of stress either in your mind or physically in your body. So when we have these yang activities, we really want to counter them with some sort of yin activity. Otherwise, we're going to have an imbalance and we're going to have too much stress in our body and in our mind. So we really want to balance these stressful activities with something resting. So if you go out running or you go weightlifting, you're going to produce a lot of stress in your body and you need to repair that stress. That's basically how you build muscle. You induce stress on your muscles and they're going to break down. And when you rest, they're going to repair themselves and they're going to grow and they're going to get bigger. And this goes for everything physical. We grow when we rest. So you don't just want to go all the time. You also want to rest and you want to give your body the opportunity to rebuild all the stress it has just been put under. And we basically do that by slowing down and doing whatever we find relaxing. And this is, by the way, also very important when it comes to things like work or these other creative endeavors, which really takes a lot of energy out of you and takes a lot of stress. Many people, they run into stuff like writer's block or they just can't work anymore and they run into this wall. And the way I see it is that these people just use way too much energy and they need to slow down and they need to go and rest and think about something else and really let the mind reprogram itself. So we have to think of our brain as something very advanced, which produces a lot of background activity that we don't really realize how it works, but we kind of just have to trust it. So if you work a lot and you are constantly using your brain on this specific issue that you're working with and you just can't solve it, maybe go away for an hour or 2 hours or a day and really let the brain work in the background. And we just want to use this active rest to really reprogram our mind and our body so we can gain the health and the cognition that we really want, and we can create all the creative endeavors we need to, and we can work properly and all of this. So that was the point of this slide. So then we have this slide about walking, and specifically walking in nature, and it's something I find extremely powerful. And I have this quote here by Friedrich Nietzsche that I just want to read out. It says, "Sit as little as possible. Do not believe any idea that was not born in the open air. Sitting still is the real sin against the Holy Ghost." So this kind of goes into what we just talked about with the mind and how it works and how it reprograms itself. When you go out walking and you just let your mind run, it's like things are starting to plug in and you're getting all these new ideas and new perspectives, and it can really just shift your momentum a lot. And there's just something about walking in nature and walking in a forest specifically. It's like all these trees, they radiate all this energy. If you ever gone into a big redwood forest, I'm sure you can feel this energy, and we can't really put it into words, but there is this energy that's just different from when you're walking in the city or you're walking somewhere else pretty much. And it's something that you shouldn't undervalue in my opinion, because it can really be powerful and it can really help you in anything in life pretty much. Try this out. Okay, so then we get into grounding, and we've talked about this previously, and it's just something that is extremely easy to do and extremely important to do as well. So you have all these different scientific studies and all these different things that really show the big impact that grounding can have on our health, on our hormones, on pretty much everything in our body. So I highly advise you just do this. You don't have to understand all of this jargon, as I've said so many times. Just do it, put your bare feet in the ground. It's very easy to do. And if you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend you watch this Earthing movie. It goes over pretty much everything you need to know, and it's also just very well made. I might put some clips of this movie in right here, so you can take a look at those, or you can skip them and go to the next slide.
Basically what we're going to demonstrate here is to show that when you stand barefoot on the earth and you touch the earth, that your body is conductive. And what this is basically a continuity meter. So what I'm going to do is plug it into the earth, like so. And I'm going to put my hand on it, and you can see, or my finger on the back of it, you can see that the light turns green, and that means that I'm grounded. To illustrate this, Sam here is wearing a pair of tennis shoes, and when he puts it on, turns it on, you can see that he's not grounded. But because I am grounded, I am barefoot on the earth, when I touch Sam, he is naturally grounded.
There's growing concern that because we are not grounded, we absorb tremendous amounts of electromagnetic radiation from our modern devices. EMF stands for electromagnetic field.
We are all immersed in electromagnetic fields, from Wi-Fi, from the wiring in our homes, and it disturbs our electrical balance. We get charged. Inside of our bodies, we get electrically charged. Some people have as much as 20 volts on their bodies, and that's not good for you.
But in our natural state, the Earth has a built-in system to ground our bodies.
Unbeknownst to us, we live inside a battery. The surface of the Earth is charged negatively, and the ionosphere, which is a layer of the atmosphere about 60 miles up, which is ionized by the sun, meaning that the rays of the sun are so strong that they split the molecules into a positive charge and a negative charge.
The sun spews out electrons. They come to the Earth, they hit the ionosphere, they charge the ionosphere, and periodically the ionosphere releases lots of electrons. It's called lightning.
The negative charge are transferred to the surface of the Earth through lightning mainly, and the positive charge stay 60 miles up.
The surface of the Earth is electrically conductive, and wherever you are, standing barefoot on the Earth or connected to the Earth, you are collecting electrons that came from the sun.
The problem arises when we don't have negative charge. We need grounding just as we need air and we need sunshine.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about choosing non-toxic clothing. And clothing is something that most people don't realize is something that brings toxins and all these dangerous chemicals into us, but it really is, and it's something that sits on your skin all day, so your body can really absorb a lot of things into the bloodstream that way. So we want to choose non-toxic clothing, and we have a few ways of doing this. So on the left here, you can just see a list of some chemicals that are very often found in the clothing we wear. There are much more than these, but these are pretty much the most common ones. So I won't go in depth with these, you can just sort of look at them if you want to. So we basically have two certifications that we can actually kind of look for if we want to choose non-toxic clothing. And the first one is this GOTS certification. It stands for Global Organic Textile Standard. So what this certification basically means is that whatever piece of clothing you buy that has this certification on it is going to not have any of these toxins in there, or it's going to have it in very, very low levels to where it's not going to impact our health basically. And it's the same with the one besides this. It's called EXCERCISE, and it's the same certification basically. They also test everything. So these are two things you can look for. And it's not only with clothing, it's also with bed sheets and all these other things we use, which are made out of fabrics. So just look for these two and you'll be mostly safe. And down at the bottom here, I just have an example of a brand you could choose. This is a Danish brand that I really like. It's the shirt I'm wearing right now, for example. And they have all these different certifications. So not only do they have the GOTS certification and the ECOTEX certification, they also have all this other stuff, which basically proves that they are non-toxic and they're also made by ethical standards and all of this. So this is something you can use, and it's something I found highly useful and a very good product basically. So another very nice point about these certifications and all these high quality clothes and whatnot is that they actually last much longer, and when you wear them they look much better. And the longer you wear them, it's like they fit better into your body and they sort of adjust according to your body composition and all of this. So that's just a very nice thing as well. It's not like the fast fashion type of stuff where it just breaks within months. These things actually last much longer and the materials are just much better. And really it's not that much more expensive to buy this stuff. And you can find them pretty much everywhere nowadays. So I highly recommend you do this and just invest in some good clothes. So we just talked about clothes and how they bring in a lot of toxins that we don't really realize. And it's the same with these products we're going to talk about here. So all these perfumes, all these dish soaps, all these laundry detergents and air fresheners and all these synthetic scents, they bring in high levels of toxins into our environment. And it's not only a small amount of toxins, these really bring in a high amount of very, very toxic compounds. And we want to avoid this, and we can do this by investing in some better options basically. So you want stuff that's neutral and it's without all these different things I have listed out here. And there's a lot of products that you can look into, and you can find these pretty much everywhere. And just like with the clothes, you can kind of slowly replace your stuff if you're using this right now. So another point about these perfumes and fragrances is that they really mask our body's natural smells, which are called pheromones. And these are really things that our body produces to really tell other people about our health. And we used it back in ancient times so people knew who to mate with, and they wanted people who smelled certain ways because then they knew they would be healthy and all of this. So I think the reason why we use so many perfumes and fragrances nowadays is basically because we live such toxic lives and we don't eat the right diet, and we basically are very unhealthy. And so we excrete these very toxic pheromones and we smell very bad when we sweat and all of this. If you live healthy, you're not going to smell bad when you don't wear all these perfumes and fragrances. You're just going to have this natural smell, and that's normal. And we've kind of got conditioned to think that we all need to smell like perfume shops and all of this, but we really don't. So this is something I just want you to think about as well. And that was the point of this slide. So then we have a slide here about sleep. And this is another thing you have to take very seriously. It's very important for health as well, obviously. And we have a few ways we can really improve our sleep, and I'm going to go over those right now. First of all, you have this thing called a circadian rhythm, which is basically your body's inner clock, and you want to really become in tune with that as much as possible. And you do that by, for example, exposing yourself to a sun when you wake up, so your body knows that it's the day. And when it's night, you want to expose yourself to moonlight, so that can really help you get in touch with your inner clock. And you really just want to go to bed at the same time each day and wake up each day if you can, and that's really going to help you as well. Another thing we can really use to improve our inner clock is grounding, and this is again proved by scientific studies and all of this, so it's not just me saying this, it's actually something you can use, and people use this to, for example, adjust jet lag. So basically what happens is when you stand on the ground, your body basically gets told where it is kind of, and it can sort of adjust itself to the environment it is in. And I don't really know how that works, and I don't think anyone knows, but we just know that it does work. So I really want you to use this. Another thing I highly advise you do is sleep in a cool room. So our body actually sleeps much better and we sleep much deeper if it's not too hot. And we don't want it to be extremely cold as well, but you just want it to be kind of chilly in there, and you can just sort of sleep much better that way. We also want to wake naturally, and this is something that might not be realistic for you to do if you have a job or you have something that you have to wake up to do. But if you have the possibility to just wake up without an alarm clock, I highly recommend that, because you will wake up at the natural part of your sleep cycle and you won't have this morning grogginess and all of this. And you'll basically just be much more refreshed during the day as well. And I highly recommend you try this out. And that reminds me of another point actually, because some people, they have to sleep much longer than other people. For example, I'm the type of person who really has to sleep 8 to 9 hours at least. Otherwise, I won't really feel as refreshed. Whereas some people, they can sleep only 6 or 7 hours. And some people, they need to sleep even more than I do. They need to sleep 10 hours. Specifically, if you're a teenager or you're a growing person, they usually need to sleep much more. So we want to honor that, and we want to just do that. We don't want to say that everyone has to sleep the same amount. People are different and we have different sleep requirements. So just sleep as long as you feel you need to, and you're going to really support your body's growth and your body's regenerative purposes and all of this. Then we have nighttime routine. So this is something you can use to sort of wind down, and if you're having trouble falling asleep, this is very helpful in my experience. So for example, if you like reading a book before you fall asleep for half an hour and you do that every night, it can actually really help you to get sleepy and to really get into this cycle of when you need to sleep and whatnot. You can also do other things, but I highly advise you do something that's not on a screen, so you're not going to expose yourself to all this artificial light, which basically tricks your brain into thinking it's the day, and you don't want to do that. So do something like reading a book or have a cup of tea, or something that you can just do on a regular basis, which just kind of tells your body that now is the time to sleep, and it sort of gets used to that over time. And then another point, as we talked about in the EMF section of this program, sleep without any wireless devices in your bedroom and all of this, and you're going to sleep much, much better. And then we just have the last point here, which I won't talk too much about because it's really something that can't really be put into words, if you ask me, and it's beauty. And beauty comes in many ways. We have music, we have art, and we have all these other things. We have sunsets and these natural phenomena, which are also beauty. And beauty is just expressed in everything we do. You probably have your own ideas and versions of beauty. It's something we need in our life. Life without beauty doesn't really exist, in my opinion. So it's just something that you can sort of think about. And there is this great documentary called Why Beauty Matters, which I will put some clips in here, and you can take a look at those, and they really do a good job at explaining what I'm trying to say here. So I'm gonna run those now.